Hey everybody, this is Dark Arrows, and we're back in my video. Now this isn't going to be anything in particular, but I had this thought while I was working on other things, and I was thinking through like the various code and stuff we use for Engine and a possible way to solve some of the complexity with our JSON injection system. So we currently use this somewhat, I don't know what I would call it complicated, because it is actually simple how it works, but it kind of has turned into like a spaghetti go type of system. So we currently have the JSON processor system, the conversion system, and then an injector system, which is actually used to basically plug everything into everything in a way that we don't have to go through a huge amount of work. So here's the injection system. It's not the most prettiest thing in the world. It definitely needs a good overhaul and rework, but it does more or less target an annotation system. So we have an annotation which we basically go, hey, we have this data field that then we can specify with a key, which we can have more than one key per entry, so we can do some legacy support if we need to. We then specifies type, then we specify arguments if it's a method. If it's a field, arguments are pretty much ignored. We have some other things in here like allow runtime changes, required, load for server, load for client, so various things we could use to do everything else. And I'm sitting here thinking about this, like, the big problem with doing this is we absolutely have to specify types, and we have to specify converters for those types. So if I make, say, a nested object system. So if I go and had a list inside of one of my entries, I have to then have a converter for that list, which we actually do have converters for things. We have converters for arrays. We convert various types of arrays. I can convert various types of lists. I can convert various types of maps. And then you have to make a converter, which isn't too big of a deal, but it gets to be more of a problem when we start having complicated objects. So say this list contained a whole bunch of, say, ammo entries and stuff. I would then need a converter for the ammo entries. And my thought is how to get around this is we start building up a JSON data structure system that lets us simply put a tag at the top of an entry saying this is a JSON data entry, and then say that basically here's how you construct it. Like we could then put an annotation somewhere in the thing and actually do various things. You know what? Let me get a text document over for this. I know text document is probably not the greatest way to do this, but that's how we're going to go ahead and do it. So if we had a class, so we had like public class and ammo data, for example, and we had some stuff in here, and we had, say, a list of ammo items that we could do, and it would just be like items. Then we had, say, some string like a name. Then we had maybe a list of damage types. So we have like damage types that would be applied via this ammo data. Probably this would be done via the items if we did this. But we have something like that in there. Then we would have, of course, the constructor. So maybe we have like a public ammo data. And we would have, say, maybe the string name in there because you have to, maybe this has to be public final so it can never be changed. And we specify that in there, etc., etc. Do all this stuff in here. What we could do is have an annotation on top of this called JSON data builder. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a constructor. We could actually have a static method here that does all the building for us, does everything else. And what we do in here is we just go, okay, the name of the entry, or we actually wouldn't even put a name of the entry here. We would just put like args equals like your first argument would be like string name, maybe. We use a current system like this. There's probably like such a better way to go about doing this, but this does work. And then we have some other thing up here like JSON data entry, and then we do like key equals ammo data, just so we know what it is. So we have some kind of processor that will come through and find this and go, hey, I need to build a JSON injector for this. Because how this JSON injector actually does work is you build a new one of these per class. Then it goes through and it finds everything. What we might actually go about doing is, because there's going to be some extension capability with how the system works. So say ammo data extended projectile, and the projectile extended like damage object, and you would have some stuff in there. You would want to kind of recycle the fields a little bit. It's not too big of a deal, so inevitably it doesn't really have to be done, but we would construct one of these, do all this stuff, and what we could do is find this, build this automatically, and then find this so that we know how to create this. So then instead of having the processor system, because the processor system is what does a lot of this work for us, the converters can kind of do this for us. So if we know we have a converter and we know we can do this, we can we can actually build our stuff via the conversion system, which is cool. I kind of do, at some extent, want to replace a lot of our JSON builders with the converters, but I don't want to be making a converter per object, especially if we run into one of the situations where we got this, where nothing in here is unique. Say we have data type also has a JSON entry above it, and ammo items also has a JSON entry above it. We can have these automatically build, automatically construct. Don't need a whole bunch of objects for it, and then could, in theory, reduce the amount of code needed for this, and be able to add new objects to this. This actually would work for mod support too. Say if a mod wants to add a JSON processor system for something else, or we want to add a JSON processor for another mod. Say we want to go through and add like support for doing mechanism recipes or whatever. That is a possibility in here. Anyways, I'll go ahead and leave this here because this is kind of a quick theory conversation video is what this is meant to be, so not very long. Just kind of want to get the ideal across before I forget what it is.